In this video, I'm gonna take you through my full minimalist leg workout. So I'm gonna be doing some leg press, some Romanian deadlifts, then I'm gonna be supersetting some leg extensions with some leg curls, and I'm also gonna be supersetting some ab crunches with some neck curls. My name's Rio, and I help busy men over 40 gain muscle, lose fat, and transform their bodies by working out 2 to 3 times a week with simple minimalist weight training. Let's get into the workout. So I'm starting this workout off with 2 sets of leg press. And so a lot of people, their minds are blown when they find out that I do only 2 sets per exercise. And the reason why I do 2 sets per exercise is because when you push your sets really hard, which means pushing them close to failure, you do not need very much volume. You do not need many sets, many exercises in order to stimulate muscle growth. And so something that a lot of people forget nowadays is that training hard and pushing your sets close to failure is what actually stimulates muscle growth. And so if you take someone who is doing a lot of volume and is following the status quo of doing 10 to 20 sets per muscle group, doing many different exercises, a lot of times, as a result of doing so much, they don't train hard enough because their effort and focus is diluted, and therefore they cannot stimulate muscle growth, right? And so something that's really important for you to keep in mind as someone who wants to be very efficient with your gym time, you want to save time because you have a busy schedule, is you need to focus on intensity over volume. And so intensity means training hard. And as I said, training hard means pushing your sets close to failure. Pushing your sets close to failure is literally where you take your sets to the point where you cannot move the weight anymore, right? You do not need to actually fail your sets, but you need to push them to the bleeding edge, right? You should only rack the bar, so to speak, when you have 0 to 1 reps left in reserve, right? Or when your form starts to degrade, right? And that's what training intensity is. And volume is the number of exercises and sets that you do in each individual workout. And so there's basically a trade-off between volume and intensity. And so if you want to be efficient with your gym time, you want to make sure that you're focusing on intensity over volume, which means training hard instead of training long, right? Because you can train hard or you can train long, but you can't do both, right? And so this is something that a lot of people fail to understand, is that you want to train hard instead of training long. Not only because it's going to save you a ton of time in the gym, but as I said, training hard is what stimulates muscle growth, right? And so a lot of people who work out 4 to 6 times a week, they're spending a lot of time in the gym, they're doing a lot of exercises, a lot of sets, they're chipping away at it week after week, yet they look the same. And this is something that you might realize if you look around your gym. If you actually pay attention to the people who show up week in and week out at your gym, you'll notice that a lot of them always look the fucking same, despite spending a lot of time in the gym. And that's because how much time you spend in the gym really doesn't matter. What matters is 2 things, right? And these are probably the 2 biggest deficiencies in everyone's training nowadays. 2 things, right? Intensity, which means training hard, and progressive overload, which means adding weight and or reps over time. Those are probably the 2 biggest deficiencies in everybody's training. And that's why most people make 0 progress despite spending a lot of time in the gym, right? And so training hard, as I said, you need to take your sets close to failure. You need to push them hard. You need to actually, when those last few reps get tough, you cannot give in. You need to push through them, right? And then you also need to make sure that you're adding weight or reps over time. That is how you basically ensure that you continue gaining muscle. Because muscle growth is stimulated with tension, right? Tension is what drives muscle growth. But tension is not enough to keep muscle growth coming over the long term. To keep muscle growth coming over the long term, you need to continue adding weight over time, right? Because your body will adapt to the weights that you're currently using. It will adapt to the number of reps that you're currently doing, right? And in order to keep it adapting and continue growing, you need to continue to challenge your muscles, right? And so with these sets that I'm doing, I'm not just going to stick with this weight for the rest of time like a lot of people do, right? What I'm going to do is that I'm going to, once this gets too easy, I'm going to add some weight, right? And that's going to ensure that my muscles continue to grow. And so if you focus on those 2 things, intensity, pushing your sets close to failure, and you focus on adding weight and or reps to them over time, in other words, progressive overload, you will gain muscle, right? And then at that point, it's just about focusing on doing the right exercises and giving yourself plenty of recovery, right? And that actually brings me to my next point, which is that a huge myth in today's fitness industry, fitness landscape, is the idea that more is better, right? Like I was saying, a lot of people spend a lot of time in the gym. They do a lot of exercises and a lot of sets, yet they make no progress. And that's because more is not better, less is more when it comes to weight training, okay? And if you train with the necessary intensity required to stimulate muscle growth, you cannot handle very much volume. And so you need to understand that muscle is not built in the gym. And so a lot of people are just continuously spinning their wheels because they're under the impression that the more time they spend in the gym, the better the results are going to be. But that's not the case, because muscle is built outside of the gym when you're resting and recovering. And once you understand that, you realize what the actual goal of successful weight training is, which is to stimulate muscle growth by training hard on a small amount of volume, and then to get out of the gym, rest, recover, and then come back a little bit bigger and stronger. And this is where most people go wrong in the gym. They do way too much, they train way too often, and therefore they're never able to actually recover between sessions and make progress. And so you guys will see as I continue to release these workout vlogs that I'm going to be getting stronger over time. And I'm only working out 2 to 3 times a week. And that's because I give myself that progress is due to giving myself plenty of recovery between the workouts. That is where all of the fucking magic happens, guys. I need you to understand this. And this is something that the old school bodybuilders understood, guys from the 40s and 50s, and that's actually known as the pre-steroid era. This is how guys trained before steroids were so widely adopted in the fitness industry like they are today. Back then, guys understood the importance of recovery. They knew that the magic happens outside of the gym. Right? And so what did they do? They trained hard on typically like full body routines or super condensed routines 2 to 3 times a week. And they focused on big compound exercises, and they focused on getting stronger over time. And that is how it's fucking done, guys. That is how it's done. Okay. And so do not fall victim to this more is better mentality that is so widespread in our society today, and especially in the gym. It's complete and utter bullshit. It's not that like people are stupid or whatever. It's that this is a mindset that applies to lots of different areas of life, and people carry it over into weight training, not realizing that it doesn't apply, right? People think, you got to work longer hours to get a bigger paycheck. You got to study more to get better grades. You got to practice. Practice makes perfect, right? These are all sayings that are so widely, adopted and believed in our society today. But the thing is, due to how strenuous and taxing weight training is on your body and our limited ability to recover as people who are not taking performance enhancing drugs, more is not better, but less is more. And this is the philosophy of Polarity Fitness. This is how we do it, right? And not only does it yield better results because you're actually giving your body time to rest, recover, but it actually saves you a shit ton of time, right? And this is why it's so effective for busy men who need efficiency. They need simplicity. And that's basically the philosophy that I teach, right? And so back to the workout here, I'm getting into some leg extensions and some leg curls. And so basically I started the workout off with my 2 big compound movements, which are the leg press and the Romanian deadlift for 2 sets each. And then now I'm basically just supersetting my isolation work. And so supersetting is a very effective way to shave time off of your workouts without affecting your performance, right? And so what supersetting is basically where you hit one set of an exercise and you follow that up immediately with a set of a different exercise that works a different muscle group, right? And so here I'm doing leg extensions and I'm immediately following it up with leg curls, right? And the reason why this works is, as I said, they work separate muscle groups, right? So if I was going from doing squats to leg extensions, that wouldn't work, right? Because the quads are used in both of those movements. But since I'm working on my quads with the leg extensions, I can immediately follow that up with the leg curls without affecting my performance. And this saves a shit ton of time. And so just doing 2 sets here, I think I was working with in the 12 to 15 rep range here, which is what I like to do a lot of my isolation work in. And then after this, I'm basically getting into some abs and some neck curls. So I supersetted the leg extensions and the leg curls. And then now I'm going to be supersetting some ab crunches with some neck curls. A common question I get is like, how do you warm up for weight training, right? A lot of people, because I don't show the warm-ups here, but I do warm up. And so what I do is I basically do typically 2 warm-up sets per exercise, excluding isolation movements. So for the leg press there, I did 2 warm-up sets, just slowly ramping up to my working sets. Same thing with the Romanian deadlift. What I've done recently that has been a game changer for saving some time and shaving some time off of my workouts is that I no longer rest between warm-up sets. So I'll do my first warm-up set, I'll immediately follow that up with my next warm-up set. and then I'll rest a few minutes and then get into my working sets, right? And that saves a ton of time. And you only really need to do that for the compound movements, because by the time I get into the leg extensions, the leg curls, I'm already warmed up and I don't need to warm up anymore. So I basically just get straight into it. The warm-ups are mostly required at the beginning. A lot of people I find overdo their warm-ups. From what I've seen, a lot of people do like way too much, and then by the time they get into their working sets, they're fatigued and they can't actually perform at max capacity. And so like my philosophy when it comes to warming up is to do the minimum amount required to then get into your working sets, right? The goal of the warm-up is just to get some blood flowing into the muscles you're trying to work and to get you psychologically prepared, right? Because if you just get straight into a heavy working set, it's gonna feel fucking heavy. It's gonna feel brutal, right? But if you slowly ramp up to it and then you get into it, then it feels a lot better. But the key is not to overdo it to the point where you're gonna affect your working sets, because the working sets are what count. Pushing those working sets hard is what's really going to stimulate growth. And so that's where you need to place most of your focus, right? And so right now, this is basically the split that I'm following. I'm doing like a push on Monday, a legs on Wednesday, and then a pull workout on Friday. Typically I work out twice a week, but I'm enjoying having an extra training day here, just for the time being. But typically what happens is that I'll need to reduce the amount of training I'm doing in order to keep my progress coming. And so once I start to plateau or I feel like I'm not recovering between sessions, what I will do is I will reduce. And that's a big mistake a lot of people make, is that when they hit plateaus or they can't continue to make progress, they start to add more, and then they just dig themselves into this deep hole of fuckery where they can't make any more progress, right? The key to making progress, the key to continually making progress is to make sure that you're training within your recovery ability. And so a lot of people train way beyond their recovery ability, and what they don't realize is that you can only grow from what you can recover from, right? And a lot of people just do way too much shit because they're training on workout routines that are for people whose lives revolve around the gym and who are taking steroids, right? So if you guys enjoyed this video, make sure to pick up my free Minimalist Muscle Building Masterclass. The first link is in my description. It's my entire step-by-step system, my A to Z system that will teach you how to gain muscle, lose fat, and transform your body using minimalist weight training, where you're training just 2 to 3 times per week on simple, efficient training routines. It was designed specifically for busy men over 40 who are juggling, work, family, responsibilities, who need a simple, practical, and efficient way to see changes in their physique without wasting hours in the gym every single week. So I'll talk to you guys soon.